Looks like it's about.
It's that time for us to gather ourselves. So if you would each mute yourselves so that we don't get feedback, we'll enjoy some music that Twinette is sharing with us today. Thank you, Twinette. That was beautiful. Brent is away this weekend. He was in Wilmington for Wilmington College's graduation yesterday. He's on the board of trustees for Wilmington, like Sylvia's on the board of trustees for William Penn. So I am the Zoom host today. It's good to see everybody. As we enter worship, do we have joys or concerns that we'd like to share? I will say that Steve celebrated his 80th birthday this week. That's a milestone in and of itself, of course, but those of you who know him or know our situation know that he was supposed to have died a couple years ago. So it makes celebrating his 80th birthday even more special. And today he's out doing exactly what he wants to do, which is helping plant crops. We have lots to be grateful for.
I have an uncle in Maine who was hospitalized this week, and he's back out and back home, so I'm thankful for that.
Last night we went to a concert at school, and Drake was with his band and played the guitar. And earlier this week, uh, he played in Sweet Night of Jazz, and he played the saxophone, and he got a couple of solos. So he made me very proud once again.
Well, I this morning early, I received text messages from my two wonderful, wonderful daughters-in-law. And it was so good to have them reach out to me and say, thank you for being a part of our lives. That was rewarding to me.
Other joys or concerns? Well, let's settle into some open worship. And then Jonathan is our worship leader this morning, so he will speak out of the silence as he's led.
So I'll begin by wishing everyone a happy Mother's Day, particularly the mothers in our midst, of course. So when I decided to take this Sunday for a message, it pretty quickly came to me what I would speak about. I decided that I would speak about Margaret Fell, the Mother of Quakerism. It felt appropriate. I relied heavily, but not exclusively, on this book, A Sincere and Constant Love. It was edited by a T.H.S. Wallace, and it's a collection of many of her writings with a little bit of historical information in the beginning. So it informed a lot of what I will say about her. So the title of my message is Margaret Fell, Mother of Quakerism, in honor of Mother's Day. Lending credence to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, evidently there truly is nothing new under the sun, as I learned while doing research for this message that what I thought was a clever title arising from my own creative mind was in fact already the title of a 1949 book written by Isabel Ross. So I'm keeping what is evidently such a good title that I borrowed it unknowingly from someone who had already come up with it. Margaret Fell was born Margaret Askew at Marsh Grange near Dalton in Furness, Lancashire in 1614. Obviously, with a name like that, England. Her family was one of means, and her father chose to have Margaret and her sister taught to read and write, which was not always common in those days for daughters. In 1632, she married a barrister, Thomas Fell, who went on to become a justice of the peace in Lancashire in 1641. He owned Swarthmore Hall, which would come to be of great significance to the early Quaker movement, and as an aside, serves to this day as a Quaker retreat house, at least according to Wikipedia. Due to the demands of his work, Judge Fell was often away, which left Margaret to oversee the family estate and business affairs, experience that would go on to aid not only her, but also the nascent Quaker movement. In June of 1652, Margaret was present at a church service, which was interrupted by George Fox, as sometimes was the case in those days. After hearing his preaching, Margaret became interested in Fox's message and invited him to stay at Swarthmore. During this stay, Judge Fell was traveling, and upon his return found that Margaret, her daughters, and much of their household had become convinced of Fox's message. While Judge Fell himself never became a convinced Quaker, he permitted Swarthmore Hall to be used as a center for the movement. Under Margaret's guidance, with her experience running an estate and business affairs, the hall came to serve both an administrative function for the Religious Society of Friends and as a refuge as persecution of the group intensified. Margaret came to be referred to by Fox and other early friends as the nursing mother of Quakerism. In the years following her convincement, Margaret Fell dedicated her life to the promotion and defense of the Quaker message. She lobbied the Crown for toleration of the sect and for an end to the mass imprisonments of early friends. Margaret herself was imprisoned on more than one occasion, and she provided considerable material support to the society due to her own social status and financial means. Her understanding of and ability to articulate the Quaker message was regarded by many as second only to that of George Fox. Hers was a prophetic voice among early friends, and I would argue remains so for friends today. Among Margaret Fell's most well-known and influential writings is Women's Speaking Justified, Proved, and Allowed of by the Scriptures. This she wrote as a defense of the Quaker practice of women speaking and giving ministry in meetings for worship alongside men. A scandalous practice in those days, and we're talking the 1600s, and also scandalous to some even in these days. Challenging what she saw as a misinterpretation and abuse of Paul's writing in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 through 35, which is the passage about men, let your women be silent in church, that's to this day cited to condemn women clergy and women having leadership roles in church. Margaret states, God hath put no such difference between the male and female as man would make. And she goes on as well to say, maybe this a little less temperate, let this word of the Lord, which was from the beginning, stop the mouths of all that oppose women's speaking in the power of the Lord. For he hath put enmity between the woman and the serpent. And if the seed of the woman speaks not, the seed of the serpent speaks. For God hath put enmity between the two seeds, and it is manifest that those that speak against the woman and her seeds speaking, speak out of the envy of the old serpent's seed. Now, maybe a little heavy-handed language compared to today, but clearly drawing on some heavy biblical imagery there to defend and refute this idea that women had no place in leadership. And, you know, that kind of language was typical of some of Margaret's writing. T.H.S. Wallace notes that she could be, quote, scathing when rebutting those with whom she disagreed. This is reflected in another of her writings, which served as a response to the beliefs of a sect that was contemporary to early friends called the Ranters. And this was necessary to rebut because sometimes they might be confused with Quakers. There were a lot of schismatic groups at that point, and so she took the trouble to refute some of what they claimed to believe. And that response was entitled, Some Ranters' Principles Answered. We find Margaret not holding back and confronting ideas with which she took issue. And I'll read from a little excerpt from that to give you a taste of what I'm talking about. So she quotes the Ranters as believing, nothing is contrary to the one power, which is God. Nothing works against him. Nothing opposes him. Nothing is contrary to his will. Whatever is done, it is his will. Almost a kind of fatalistic view. So she answers, that is likewise false and blasphemy. You and your power are contrary and act contrary to the power of God. Therefore do you and your power give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should speak and does speak in you. You worship the dragon, which gives power unto the beast, quoting from Revelation. And you exercise the power of the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. This, your power, is contrary to the power of God. So likely that the Ranters were not invited to tea at Swarthmore Hall would be my guess. But all of this shows that she was writing and speaking on behalf of this movement in a very public role at a time and in a way that would have not been typical in that society, but among friends it was. In 1660, she wrote a declaration of Quaker principles and practice from Margaret Fell to King Charles and Parliament. Wallace notes that the purpose of this writing, which gave the world actually the first public statement of the Quaker peace testimony, was both to inform the government of Quaker principles. This is following the restoration of the monarchy after the period of the Commonwealth, and to fulfill the Quaker belief in being truthful to all people, so that misunderstanding and ignorance might be less likely to lead to persecution and violence. And another of her writings, while I haven't yet had an opportunity to read it, I recently heard a friend mention in a YouTube video what is already my favorite title of one of her works. It's called An Epistle to Convinced but Not Yet Crucified Friends. So I'm totally jealous I didn't come up with that one myself, because that's an amazing title for something. Destined to be a barn burner, I'm sure, if any of us end up reading it. So no discussion of Margaret Fell would be complete without mentioning that 11 years after Judge Fell died, she actually married George Fox. Many probably know that. And by most accounts, the marriage was entered into in a fairly business-like way, which was not necessarily unusual for that time. And it was likely motivated, at least in part, by a desire that the union benefit the Religious Society of Friends. Although Fox signed a contract that waived his rights to her property, I'm sure in a desire to protect her and her daughters, but also to avoid any appearance of impropriety there. And both of them went on to dedicate their remaining years to promoting Quakerism. So hopefully this message will serve to familiarize those listening with the life of Margaret Fell, arguably, if not the, certainly one of the mothers of Quakerism. To some extent, should some know little about her. And for those of you who doubtless already know a great deal about her, perhaps you will feel led to re-examine some of her works. And I will close with another quote from Margaret Fell for friends' consideration. And if you love the light, then you come to the light to be proved and tried, whether your works be wrought in God. But that which hates the light turns from the light, and that shall be condemned by the light forever. And though you may turn from the light where the unity is, and you may turn from the eternal truth, but from the witness of God in your consciences, which he hath placed in you, which beareth witness for the living God, you can never fly. That shall pursue you wherever you go.
Thank you again, Twinette. Your music is beautiful and a real addition to our meeting for worship. I enjoy listening to you. It's that time when some of us need to leave and go to other responsibilities. We wish you Godspeed and look forward to seeing you next week. And the rest of us will continue on and worship for a little while longer.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was most informative. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Have a good week, everyone, and happy Mother's Day.
So many memories of my mother. I feel the need to speak up for her. She's been gone for quite a long time. But I have this one memory. Going shopping with her when we lived in Madison, Wisconsin. Grocery shopping. We went to the local Century store. I don't even know if they're around anymore. And we were going down the frozen food section, and they had those open freezers. And as a child, you're just a little bit above the freezer. And I used, on a hot summer day, I used to put my face in it and breathe that cool air. And my mother was up ahead, and she turned around and she saw me. And she goes, "Steve." And I thought I was in trouble. But she came over and she put her face in it. What a mother. What such great strength to touch a young kid. I thank you all you mothers and my female sisters, for giving that to us. Men seem to want to beat each other up a lot. So thank you. I thank my mother today.
My mom liked to live in a box. No. When she broke out of the box, life was fun for her. And I remember my brother and I would take a clothes basket and we would put an ice pick under one edge of the clothes basket and put birdseed down on a paddleboard under the basket, and we'd tie a string to it, and we would wait for a grackle or a cardinal to get inside that basket to get that seed, and then we'd pull that ice pick out from a distance and trap the bird, and then we'd go and get pecked and whatever, but we'd take that bird not just to her to show what we had done, but would actually take it in the house. And she'd say, "Get that cardinal out of here." What are y'all doing? And one time when I was even younger, I picked up a scorpion by the tail and brought it in, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I said, "Hey, look what I caught." She said, "Get that out of here." But we always had the laughs later on of her breaking out of such a rigid box that she lived in, where everything had to stay the same, and she fought a lot of that all of her life with depression and what have you. But those moments were fun with her when we got her out of that box with our antics. I'm glad to have known her when I did.
When Steve was talking about the grocery store with his mom, I grew up in a family of 4 girls. I was the oldest, and my mother used to have to take all 4 of us when she went grocery shopping. And so there was 2 toddlers and then 2 that were 4 and 5 years old. So I just had these memories of pushing one grocery cart while she pushed the other, and having 2 kids in one, and she's buying enough groceries for a family of 6. But she ruled with an iron fist. She was loving. When Jonathan was talking about Margaret Fell being all business, my mother was all business. But she loved us fiercely. She made sure we had everything we needed growing up in an all-girl family. It was just wonderful. I have nothing but just so much love for everything she sacrificed, and everything that all moms sacrifice. I mean, the dads, they sacrifice in their way, with how hard they have to work and be so strong for us and everything. But moms, they just really try to make sure we're all together and connected and loving and raised. And I could just go on and on, but I have been thinking a lot about all the immigrant mothers that are getting separated, and that breaks my heart when they get separated from their children. And I wish we could find a way to stop all that.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your words. I was not aware of this history, and it's very enlightening and empowering and affirming to hear. So that was wonderful. It's Mother's Day, and obviously my Mother's Day story, my mom has passed, it's been 20 years plus, but I've had the blessing of having a loving mother and also a loving aunt who really instilled in me just this light inside. And I have my aunt's sewing basket, all her threads and notions, and I have a lot of my mother's stuff, and I've been making these large tapestries over the years and combining bits and scraps, and I'm always using a sewing machine and attaching everything with these spools of threads that date back maybe 50 or 60 or 70 years. And I just realize it's all that detail and love and putting pieces together and mending things that I associate with my mom and my aunt's life. That care of detail and the loving gestures that make our lives sustainable and just bond us all together. So I'm grateful. Every time I sew, I'm really touched by their love in ways that I know really affect the work I do. So yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing about the Mother of Quakerism and for reminding all of us of our mothers. I've appreciated hearing the sharing that everybody has done about your mothers. I had a good one too, and a good couple of grandmothers, and it's good to take some time to stop and actually give thanks for having had them, rather than just sort of, I don't know, sliding through life and not giving thanks for the blessings that I have. And my mom and my grandmothers were certainly some of those blessings. Anything else that people would like to share as we end worship? It's good to see everybody here. It's always good to get together.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good job, John.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We'll get an earthquake up your way here soon.
Absolutely.
Y'all have a good week.
Bye-bye.